For more than a year, she sat silent while her daughter became a household name.
Raye Smith is Kelsey-Briggs' mother. The 2-year-old girl abused to death in Meeker last year. Well, since then, Kelsey-Briggs has become a poster child for several abuse prevention groups. Even the legislature joined in by passing Kelsey's law that gives DHS more authority in child abuse cases. But in all those incidences, no one ever consulted the one person who knew Kelsey best.
It's awful. It's horrible. I wouldn't want anyone to walk in these shoes.
Raye Smith could go to prison soon. The state charges she knew or should have known about Kelsey's abuse, and those charges have essentially cut her out of the loop.
It's like I've just been pushed to the side, like Kelsey didn't even have a mom, and that's not right. And I wish I would have been, contacted with that stuff.
Whatever people's intentions are, Raye sees them as exploiting her daughter's death for personal or political agendas.
It really hurts because she's being used as a symbol, and she's being used for people's personal gain, and I don't see that that's right. Like the Kelsey's law, I believe that was put together for people's personal gain, that lawmakers signed it, to have their name put on something that was, in Kelsey's, because they were attached to Kelsey's name. So then maybe that gets them another vote.
But Raye says that is just part of a bigger problem. Losing a child is difficult enough. Losing a child publicly is almost unbearable.
Just like trying to go to Kelsey's grave. I mean, I constantly have to think about worrying if somebody's, gonna come up there, and I don't have the time to just sit there and talk to her like I want to.
She says this, coupled with the merciless judgment of a voyeuristic public, makes her daily life miserable.
I lost my best friend, and it's like no one understands that. And that's what I continue to tell people. It's amazed me how hard people kick you when you're at your lowest.
The man charged with killing a local toddler may not face a murder charge for much longer. We have word tonight of a plea agreement in the death of Kelsey Briggs, just 2.5 years old when she was killed in October of 2005. Michael Porter is accused of abusing her, and now we're hearing there may be a plea deal involving a lesser charge. And the girl's family spoke to Eyewitness News 5's Nicole Bergen earlier today.
Kelsey Briggs counts her numbers, something she just learned to do, and her family counts down the days until they have some answers in her death.
It's a huge difference, and we always knew there was possible plea bargains that could come out.
Jay Sigmund is one of the few who can talk about the case. A gag order is expected to be lifted soon, but for now, prevents the rest of the family from speaking. Sigmund believes the man charged in connection with Kelsey's death may have a plea bargain with the prosecutor. Are you okay with that?
We accept it, and that's, you have to.
But it does not mean his family is happy about Friday's scheduled hearing for Michael Porter. It's been 15 months since Kelsey's death. They know she died from abuse, but the specifics just too painful for the family to read.
My wife and Kathy have neither one still gone through the entire autopsy. Neither one can make it. They cannot make it through it, and they would have to live through all that again. And I'm kind of glad they don't have to live that again.
A trial would put those horrible details into words, how Kelsey suffered. And if relief is the right word, Sigmund's glad his wife and Kelsey's grandmother don't have to endure a trial.
What it costs, what the costs are for justice, and it's very difficult, and it is very trying on the people that have to go through it and live it.
Nicole Bergen, Eyewitness News 5.
The district attorney involved in this case cannot comment on the details because of the gag order now in effect. We do know the hearing for Michael Porter is scheduled for Friday afternoon. Also, Kelsey's mother, Raye Smith, is facing charges as well, accused of enabling child abuse and also child neglect.
The man accused of sexually abusing and killing his stepdaughter, Kelsey Smith-Briggs, has reached a plea bargain with prosecutors. Mary Joseph tells us Michael Porter pleaded guilty to enabling child abuse. Mary?
The entire hearing lasted about 15 minutes. It was very emotional, tears on both sides of the courtroom. But in the end, no one is charged with murdering Kelsey Smith-Briggs. Michael Lee Porter is on his way to serve a 30-year sentence for enabling the abuse of his 2-year-old stepdaughter. It's a plea bargain Kelsey Smith-Briggs' father's family is satisfied with. They didn't want to go through a murder trial.
We made an informed decision that this was the best thing for our family, and we do feel someone is being held accountable, and we are satisfied with this outcome.
Kelsey's mother, Raye Smith, is still facing enabling child abuse and child neglect. Her family learned about the plea bargain through the media. They also have been told Michael Porter has made statements about Raye.
To me, the Briggs did not love Kelsey. Lance, I think, did. But they have not said nothing about Mike Porter. If they really loved Kelsey, they would be upset that the murderer got off with 25 years.
Most likely, no one will ever face murder charges in this high-profile case, meaning no one may be held directly responsible for the 2-year-old's death.
It has come to my attention that there has been some criticism of the pending plea agreement. I would ask that those of you that are willing to throw those stones to please not do that until you have walked a mile in the family's shoes and have gone through the pain that they've gone through.
Michael Porter is facing 30 years in prison. He must serve 85% of that, meaning he will be in prison for at least 25 and a half years. Back to you.
All right, Mary. Raye Smith will go to trial for enabling child abuse and child neglect on June 12th.
And tonight, Kelsey Smith-Briggs' stepfather is the face of justice in her case. This after Michael Porter inked a deal that reduced his charge and shortened his time in court. But as Stacey Cameron tells us, it didn't dent the emotion surrounding the case.
Amy, it was a little more than a year ago that young little Kelsey Smith died. Kelsey Smith-Briggs died. And since that time, both the Briggs family and the Smith family have disagreed over what happened. She died while her father, Lance Briggs, was away serving in the military. But her stepfather, Michael Lee Porter, and her mother, Raye Smith, both facing charges of child abuse. But today, both families could agree on one thing. As Michael Lee Porter was sentenced, they say a prison sentence will never bring back young Kelsey. Here in home movies, Kelsey Briggs seemed happy, surrounded by a loving family. But after her death, that family would become broken, as her stepfather would face charges of murder and sexual abuse.
The defendant, Michael Porter, will serve 85% of this crime.
But Michael Lee Porter's crime wouldn't be murder. Instead, realizing he couldn't sit through an emotional trial, Kelsey's biological father, Lance Briggs, agreed with the district attorney, accepting Porter's plea to a lesser charge of enabling child abuse.
Regardless of the charge, he's going away for at least 25 years in prison.
And while Kelsey's mother, Raye Smith, still faces child abuse charges,
She was a good mother, and she loved Kelsey.
Smith's sister feels the DA and Briggs let a killer off easy.
If they really loved Kelsey, they would be upset that the murderer got off with 25 years.
But holding back his tears, Briggs disagreed, saying Smith was just as responsible for Kelsey's death as the man being sped off to prison in a police car.
I feel that until the mother, Raye Smith, goes to prison for her involvement in this, that there will not be justice.
You heard the families talk about a 25-year sentence. Actually, Michael Lee Porter was sentenced to 30 years on that child enabling charge, but under Oklahoma state law, he will be required to serve at least 25 years of that sentence, not being eligible for parole, good time, or time served. Amy?
All right, Stacey, and Raye Smith is scheduled to face trial this June on charges of child neglect and enabling child abuse.
Facing murder charges in the case, as well as sexual abuse, but those charges were dropped in exchange for a 30-year prison sentence for child abuse enablement. Porter must serve 85% of that sentence. That's 25 and a half years. So now no one faces murder or sex abuse charges. And the question, who will be held accountable for the murder of the 2-year-old?
I don't think it's fair to say no one was held accountable, and I don't think it's fair to criticize the district attorney for making this offer. I think the offer is favorable to the people of the state of Oklahoma. It was going to be a difficult case. It's a finger-pointing case. The mother pointing fingers at Mr. Porter pointing his fingers at her. The state was going to have a tough time proving that case before a jury.
Now, Raye Smith will be going to trial in June.